buildings like the White House, the Capitol Hill building, and the Pentagon, they're no-fly zones. Why wouldn't they be? How can you protect buildings like that if planes can just fly in there without being challenged and then do what is claimed to have happened to the Pentagon? So it's called P-56. And what happens is when you enter that no-fly zone, especially you get into the inner cores of it, if you're not broadcasting the codes that allow you into that space, then you will be shot down. And I quote in the book a former defense secretary in America, Caspar Weinberger, who said that there are a ring of air bases around Washington, and if anyone threatens Washington from the air without broadcasting the code, then they're shot down. Another thing, I'll come to that a bit more in a second because it's very relevant. Another thing is that there's ground-to-air missiles protecting that no-fly zone as well. You mean there's not ground-to-air missiles protecting the Pentagon? I was approached by a guy in Australia just after 9/11 who was explaining how he has a role in the computer defense system of Australia. And he actually took me to the Canberra Parliament building and said, around here are ground-to-air missiles. You never see them. But anyone comes into this protected airspace and threatens to attack the Parliament building, they'll get shot out of the sky. No warning. If they've not punched in the code that allows them in there, gone. That doesn't happen in America. It's been shown that it has. And people that I quote have said, yeah, the ground-to-air missiles.
So it's suspicious that a plane could get anywhere near the
shouldn't get anywhere near it. Now, the organization that is designated to protect America and Canada from the air is called NORAD. And its headquarters is at the Peterson base in Colorado, and not far down the road, about half an hour, 45 minutes in a car, is Cheyenne Mountain, which is its operational base. Cheyenne Mountain, even in 2001, was the state of the art of tracking and reaction to things like this. And they have centers, NORAD, all over to react to situations in that area. The one relevant to 9/11 is called NEADS. It's at a place called Rome in New York State. And it is the one that reacts to these things like hijackings and gets military planes in the air to go up there and see what's going on, and also to try to force the plane down. And if it's threatening a civilian area, to shoot it down. In the year before 9/11, 125 times this happened, because what I quote in the book are the Federal Aviation Administration regulations for air traffic controllers, civilian air traffic controllers, in reacting to problems with a plane. And it says very, very clearly in the regulations, if you lose contact with a plane, or if something is happening that you think is strange, always treat it as an emergency. In other words, you contact NORAD, NORAD gets military planes in the air. So what happened on 9/11 is that this system was suspended for some reason. And in a period of some 2 hours while this was playing out, not one single military plane was scrambled that made any difference to events. First of all, for the first week after 9/11, the official story was that no planes were scrambled at all in that period, which is completely unprecedented. And then after a week, the story changed, and suddenly, yeah, oh yes, we did, because I mean, not scrambling them at all. It's like, what? Oh yeah, we did, because the story's constantly changing when they get caught out in the first one. And they said that they scrambled planes for the New York attack from Cape Cod, 153 miles away from New York. There's no one closer. And they said that for the Pentagon attack, they scrambled from the Langley base in Virginia, 130 miles away. And neither of them got there anywhere near close enough to make a difference because of the time they were scrambled. In fact, we are told to believe, according to the official story, that the Langley planes, instead of heading for the Pentagon, this is after the World Trade Center has already been hit twice, they went out to sea thinking they were being scrambled for an attack coming in from Russia or somewhere, which they were used to during the Cold War. So they went out to sea before coming back, and they didn't get there in time. And there is a constant theme of 9/11 of personnel like Cheney, like Rumsfeld, like Richard Myers, the acting head of the military that day, and others, Ralph Eberhardt, the head of NORAD, not being in a position to respond until the Pentagon was hit, or said to be hit. This was a constant theme. They had cover stories, lies. I prove it, their lies in the book, of where they were up to that point, where they weren't.
So they wanted it to be hit.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because you'll get a bigger reaction.
The plan was, it's like a guy called Fletcher Prouty, who was a major person of experience within the intelligence community. He wrote books exposing the Kennedy assassination and all that stuff. And he said, if you're looking at an assassination, and the same with 9/11, look at who had the power to call off the usual security response, because that's where it's going to lead you to what's behind it. So we've seen all these things that didn't happen that day that should have happened. Now,
who's the most person in charge that day? Cheney?
Cheney was officially, because look what they did with Boy George Bush. They got him down to Florida and then flew him around air bases until 7 o'clock in the evening. They wanted him out of the way.
So he was completely not even in D.C. until 7 o'clock.
No, he wasn't. That was purposely done because then Cheney could run the show without any interruption. I have a lot to say about Cheney in the book, but the thing is, 130 miles away from the Pentagon, so there's a no-fly zone over Washington. You police it from 130 miles away? What? 10 miles down the road from the Pentagon and the White House is the Andrews Air Force Base. The Andrews Air Force Base is where Air Force One comes in and foreign leaders come in and then get helicoptered to the White House. They do not have planes on standby to react 10 miles down the road to the no-fly zone over Washington. After the Pentagon was hit, as was widely reported, planes were scrambled from the Andrews Air Force Base to protect other attacks of Washington. Why weren't they before? Because it had to be allowed to happen. Now, here's another kicker. I quote in the book tapes of NORAD tapes of the people that were there in the needs base in Rome, New York State, to respond to what was happening, right? And there was total confusion. You can see it on the tapes. This is why. What are the chances, Brian, on that day of all days, that what was described as an unprecedented number of war games were going on in the skies where the 9/11 planes were hijacked, playing out practice scenarios? There was a long list of them. I list them in the book. of planes being hijacked, including one scenario, which was a plane hitting the National Reconnaissance Office in Washington, D.C. And what happens when these war games are going on is those that are tracking the planes have something they call sim over live. These are simulated planes as part of the war game scenario that appear on the screens of those tracking planes that really exist. And there's in one of the NORAD tapes, someone shouts out, "Get rid of the goddamn sim," because they were totally confused. And when the reports came in to NORAD, they're all on the tapes, the official tapes, that I quote, of the 9/11 hijacks, the response team at NORAD Needs was saying, is this real or is this scenario, basically? And they were, some of them have said, well, when it first happened, we thought it was, someone actually says, well, they've started the war games early, basically, words to that effect. And it confused everything. And therefore, at one point, while the hijackings were going on, they had a long list of planes they thought were hijacked, weren't hijacked at all. So that created constant, total confusion. The man who decided that that unprecedented number of war games would go on at that day, at least the person who made the decision, was Ralph Eberhardt, the commander of NORAD, who 12 hours before the 9/11 attacks put the Pentagon defense computer systems on the lowest level of protection. And the man in overall political charge of the war games, Dick Cheney.